Emma Jo Morris is here, senior consultant at Beck & Stone and Breitbart contributor. Emma Jo, how are we feeling, Emma Jo?
I've literally never felt better, Slater. This is the most incredible thing. Have we ever seen anything more fascinating, riveting, incredible? Just what a comeback in politics. There's very few days, Slater, where I tell you I think politics is the most interesting thing going on. But this week, whoa.
We did some good news, bad news earlier today. We don't need to do the bad news now. We're just talking about some of the Senate races that are really close. But let's keep the vibes.
There's no bad news in the Senate. We already have the majority. Everything else is just cherries on the sundae.
Only because I'm greedy and I wanted Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona, and they were so close.
Yes, okay, anyway. yes, fine, but close. Oh my God, we have it all.
We've been talking about the lay of the land and how much better the lay of the land is for Trump and MAGA in 2024 than 2020. If he won in 2020, the Democrats had the House and the Senate. Nothing would have gotten done. He would have had one Supreme Court justice as opposed to maybe 3 in this next 4 years. And he got rid of all the deep state guys in his cabinet. They're not there's no more Mike Kellys. There's no more Mike Pence. They just swap out Pence for Vance.
It's a totally different board that we're looking at this time than last time. And, I spent a lot of time, I don't know if you do this, I'm sure you do. I'm sure I'm speaking to the right audience, but when things happen, you can't help but say, God, why did you do that? Why did you give us this disgrace, Joe Biden, for 4 years, hurting our citizens, hurting our people, with all of these horrible policies? How did God let this happen when we know God loves America? And I feel like obviously you can't, try to predict or understand God's ways. And I know that, but I still grapple with those questions. And then I look at Tuesday and I'm like, oh, I feel like I get it now. At least I feel like I get it in my own limited way. This feels, people needed time. People just needed time. And now, he's back with a vengeance. He's back with more power than he's ever had and more ability to govern than he's ever had.
I want to talk about the future, but let's take a moment to reflect on the last week or so. What was a moment or a pivot point or something good, exciting, fascinating, riveting? I love that word you used. What's something of the last 2 weeks that stands out to you?
You mean in terms of a turning point?
Yeah, or not even a turning point, just his campaign in general, just the nation, just the last week or so before the campaign. What was something that was oh, wow, that was awesome?
Honestly, it sounds funny to say this, but obviously it's not a secret that I wanted Trump to win the election. But I think that it wasn't something that I was oh, this is awesome. It was something that I said, oh, this is terrible. He's going to win the election. And it was when she came out and started talking about this Hitler stuff and this fascist stuff. And she just started trashing not only Trump, but she started trashing half the country. And then Joe Biden came out and doubled down and trashed half the country, or more than half the country, actually, according to the results on Tuesday. And I looked at that and I thought, I know certain things about the American people. And one thing I know is that they are a self-respecting country. They don't elect people who hate them and insult them. And she was going out calling, what do you call somebody who votes for Hitler? What is that? It's an evil person. How do we look at Nazi Germany, And then Biden comes out thinking he's being a smart aleck or something, calling his supporters garbage. And I looked at that and I was like, no, he has this locked up. I don't care what Ann Seltzer says or whatever in Iowa. We're winning. And lo and behold, you can't insult the country like that and expect to be rewarded with power to govern. No.
Did you see the Constantine Kissen list? Is it Kissen? Is that his last name?
No, I don't know what that is.
Do you know what I'm talking about? He has this podcast, Triggered, which I'm sure you've seen.
Okay.
But he's this British chap, And he said, 10 reasons to my British and European friends why you shouldn't be shocked or surprised that this happened. And I read it earlier. I got a ton of emails. So for everyone who emailed me, I wrote back to you. But also it's on Slater Radio. I put it up on Slater Radio. And here's 2 of them. Number 1, Americans love their country and want it to be the best in the world. America is a nation of people who conquered a continent. They love strength. They love winning. And any leader who appeals to that has an automatic advantage. And then similarly,
yeah, so true.
Number 9, Americans are a deeply optimistic people. They hate negativity. The woke view of American history as a series of evils for which they must eternally apologize is utterly abhorrent to them. They believe in moving forward together, not endlessly obsessing about the past.
Yeah, that to me, I think, is really what this is. I mean, obviously, it's a perfect storm of awfulness that led us here, unfortunately. But I think that like the constant shaming of our people just does not work. And that's what this woke leftism is, this progressive leftism. It's this rewriting of our history, burning our flag, desecrating our monuments. There's something about that hits the American spirit in a way that is just not acceptable. And I think that one of the salient things that's going to come out of this new chapter that we're in is we eliminate all of that from public life. There is no hating people or judging people or assessing people based on their race. It's over.
It's so fascinating because it's how can an election be that? It is what you said, and I look forward to just like it's now just a rejection. It's just we talked to Dinesh D'Souza yesterday, and he said something that someone was like, "Oh, you just like ignore it now, like it's just done, it's gone." I don't know. What do you do? Like, or how is an election for policy also that cultural thing that you just brought up? How can it be that, and how do we do that?
Well, because that is the entire culture. That is like the foundational culture of the left. That is the foundational tenet of their ideology, and that has been so wholly repudiated that the numbers show that this is a fringe group, and it's okay to mock them and ignore them.
Yes.
And cast them aside and not take them seriously. And we knew that these are not serious people. And now we got permission. The numbers show that this is a fringe minority of the country, and they don't need to be acknowledged. They just don't need to be acknowledged. They're too nutty. They're too insane. It's like you don't have to take into consideration these ridiculous opinions that don't really speak for anybody. Another thing and I was posting about this on Twitter, like in 2016, Trump won, obviously, came into office looking to extend an olive branch to the establishment and to everybody kind of. He was looking to be the president for everybody, and he was trying to create this environment of unity. Remember, he said, no, I'm not going to lock up Hillary Clinton. I don't want to do that. He didn't want to do that to the fabric of the country. Like, he wanted it to stay intact. And he was really trying to work with Chuck Schumer, trying to work with Nancy Pelosi. He's just pragmatic, right, and practical, and he was in there to make deals. This time, I should say, no, I'm moving too fast. After he did that, what happened? They ran a coup against him. They locked his supporters out of their churches into their homes. They ran our price of food up, our price of energy up, basically by choice. I mean, on day one of Joe Biden's administration, he decided that he was not going to do any energy exploration anymore in this country. And then obviously, like I said, burned our flags, desecrated our monuments, and called us Hitler. Now there's been an election since, and Trump has won resoundingly. It wasn't close. It was not close. Every single state except for 2 moved to the right. And at this point, we're not doing unity with these people. I don't believe that. I don't believe that that's the agenda. I don't believe that the people who are sending us to war in Ukraine with Russia and the people who are sending us, trying to provoke. Sorry, 1 second. I'm on radio. Okay. I don't think that the people who are trying to send us to war with Russia and Ukraine, I don't think the people who are trying to send us to war in Iran are going to get an olive branch. It's not happening. The people who cut off our energy exploration, it's not happening. Goodbye. Those people were resoundingly rejected.
Yeah, a mandate doesn't mean bipartisanship.
Correct.
Right. For some reason,
actually,
we're going to be like,
I'm sorry. I just want to say something on the term bipartisanship. Trump is a bipartisan politician. We're not talking about parties. We're talking about factions of leaders. We had Tulsi Gabbard campaigning for Trump. We had RFK campaigning for Trump. We had tons and droves of people, obviously, as we see because he won the election, from the left moving over to Trump. It's not that he's not bipartisan. He's absolutely bipartisan and non-ideological. It's the establishment who is going to be moved over, let's say, politely.
Yes. You were something you wrote was the theme of our first hour of the show. We played a lot of the liberal tears. And I love how you wrote, we refuse to be held hostage to this just nuttiness.
Yes. It's ridiculous. They're ridiculous people. They are ridiculous people. You don't have to bring the people who are insane into the conversation.